Hey folks, Pat here from DNS. This Madison area fishing report is current as of September 22nd. Sorry about the lateness of this report. We've actually been pretty busy here at the shop, so we'll try to burn through some of this stuff pretty quick. Salmon season's coming up. All those fish are going to start running up the tributaries out of Lake Michigan. One of the biggest tributaries is the Milwaukee River. The Milwaukee River is a small town called Thiensville. In Thiensville, they have a dam here. I guess I'll show you where Thiensville is quick. Just north of Milwaukee there, kind of Mequon area, Cedarburg up that way. They have a dam here. The community didn't want to take the dam out, even though it was preventing salmon and other fish from traveling freely up and down the river. So the solution to that was to install a fish passage. So they have this little, basically like a little side stream that allows fish to move up and down the creek or up and down the river. I'm mentioning this because when they did that, they had the foresight to install a fish camera in the Thiensville Fishway there. So you can see it here. It's a camera that runs on the Ozaukee County website 24/7. And it's just a really cool resource. I was looking at it yesterday, so I'm a little disappointed we don't see much there. Oh, there was just a smallmouth fin I saw. Oh, yeah, there he's coming down. There's a smallmouth swimming up the stream. Yesterday there was all kinds of smallmouth and panfish in here. And but it's really cool come salmon season because you can start to see the salmon come through there. So you see, 20, 25-pound king come through. It's just a cool resource. So I just wanted to let everybody know about that. If you just Google Thiensville Fishway camera, you can find it on there. It'll pop right up. And yeah, it's just a cool thing. I leave it on here at the shop, especially this time of year, just on the background and keep an eye on it because it's just neat to see what's going on out there. Let's see some shop news. Oops, don't want to spoil the surprise there. Warner Park Buckthorn Blitz continues tomorrow, 10 to 12 p.m. If you're looking to help out Warner Park, maybe you live here on the north side and got some free time, you can volunteer down there. You don't have to know how to do anything, even outside of operating a loppers or a handsaw. You can just tug brush and pile sticks if that's your speed. But they're clearing out buckthorn down there. Great opportunity. Thanks to Wild Warner for cleaning up the park down there. The Wisconsin Smallmouth Alliance is kicking off their meeting series with their first meeting Wednesday, October 4th at the Thirsty Goat in Fitchburg. Speaking at that event will be Kyle Zempel, a friend of mine in the shop, and he's a fantastic fly fishing guides for driftless trout. His biggest thing I'd say is smallmouth on the Wisconsin River. Super talented that way, but also a very talented photographer. And outside of guide trips, he also does international trips with folks. So he's going to be talking about a recent trip to New Zealand, some fantastic photos. He's a really talented photographer and a really entertaining speaker. So if you want, check that out. And I would also encourage folks to, if you're into smallmouth, join the Smallmouth Alliance. They have a website here, wisconsinsmallmouth.com. And check them out. Support them, attend their meetings. They do great work. And the surprise I spoiled before is that our fish tank here at the shop finally has some game fish in it. So here's a little baby smallmouth bass. We got to think of some names for these guys. There's a little baby walleye. There's a perch behind them. We got a crappie and a bluegill there. So got some little baby fish in there, and want to thank Gollin Bait and Fish Farm. They're our bait supplier for getting us these game fish. And before anybody says anything in the comments or goes and calls the DNR, yes, I have the proper paperwork to have these fish. So anyway, super cool. And stop in the shop next time you're in, check it out. It's a fun little thing. On to the report. Had another gorgeous week weather-wise with more mild temps during the day and cool evenings. We even got a little bit of rain, but the water temps are pretty much where they were last week. Forecast says a chance for rain this afternoon and evening, but we've got another gorgeous weekend and week ahead. So get out there and enjoy this weather while it lasts, because winter is not far away. The buoy on Lake Mendota is down, but there are other resources out there to find lake temps. I saw Mendota was at 69 degrees surface temp, and then there's a USGS monitor down here on Brittingham Bay, close to shore. That read 67 degrees this morning. So temps are coming down, but basically pretty steady from where they were last week. Generally around the chain, it sounds like floating weeds are still causing a few problems depending on wind and where you're at. The Dane County Water Quality Site is also down until spring. They stopped monitoring after Labor Day. But from what I hear, visibility remains decent in most spots, but it can fluctuate greatly depending on where you're at. I had David Yang in here. You might know him as D. Yang Bass. He was out fishing. He said it was crazy. One minute the water would be clear, and then all of a sudden, it's sitting in this one spot. All of a sudden it'd get cloudy. So you never really know what you're going to find out there. For the most part, though, fish remain where they've been all summer, but some fish are starting to move shallower, and that'll be the theme of this report as we move into fall. Gills are starting to be found on weed lines and mid-lake humps on Lake Mendota, suspended over deep water pretty much everywhere else, although some fish are starting to move back into shallow weed lines. Redworms and spikes continue to work well for the gills. Outside of tiny fish, perch action remains basically non-existent on Mendota and elsewhere. Largemouth bass are still shallow around the chain, and large smallmouth bass and walleye are being picked up in good numbers on shoreline breaks and mid-lake humps, with crawlers and fathead minnows working well for those fish. Pike are plentiful, and it sounds like the muskie action continues to pick up as water temps come down. Area streams are running low and clear, but the cooler temps have the trout in a great mood. Local rivers are also running very low right now as well. Up here, you get a little more detail. Up here on Cherokee Marsh at Cherokee Park, there's still a lot of weeds up there, but they are coming down, as they will as we move through fall, and that's opening up some fishing opportunities. But if you've got a topwater frog, you can do real well up there right now. Otherwise, if you got a small canoe, kayak, small boat, you can launch here at the School Road boat launch and get out into the main channel here. They've been doing great on pike and bass there all summer, and that action will continue to improve. A lot of mixed bag of fish up here at the bridges at 113, but catfish are still the star up there. Been still hearing about some good reports of folks getting some nice fish. Crawlers and stink bait are still the most popular choice up there right now, but as things start to cool down here, cut bait's going to start to be the main ticket up there. As far as Lake Mendota, got like I said, the perch situation is still not great. Folks are getting a lot of smaller fish, but I feel like folks have basically given up on trying to find keepers, and they've moved on because the gills are keeping folks busy on the weed lines, and more gills are starting to show up on mid-lake humps. So those are both great spots to look for gills. I hear about the occasional crappie here and there, but those fish are scattered at best. Small jig tipped with a spike or a redworm has been most effective for all panfish, with the occasional walleye and smallmouth bass grabbing those jigs as well. Largemouth bass action remains good up shallow. Smallmouth bass and walleye action has been great on outside weed edges and shoreline breaks and mid-lake humps in 15 to 20 feet of water. And when I say shoreline breaks, both for walleye, smallmouth, and the bluegills, we're talking about Dunn's Bar, Brearley Bars, Second Point, Commodore Bar, and, to some other extents, Picket Point area, Maple Bluff, Fox Point, basically all over the lake. You're close to something out there. But anyway, extra large fatheads and blacktail chubs we sell here at the shop have been working well for those fish. But trolling crawlers and crankbaits is also picking up some walleyes and occasional smallmouth as well. I also continue to hear about big catfish mixing things up for folks from both folks onshore and fishing deeper out to 20 feet of water. Tenney Park continues to fish pretty well with some nice fish coming off some nice walleyes out here off the break wall. Early morning hours and late at dusk. The river's been a little slow lately below the lock and dam, but I do still hear about the occasional nice walleye being picked up and some nice bluegills in there too. Smaller bluegills in the Tenney Park Lagoon, but there's still some giant largemouth in there. So, casting some topwater frogs across those weeds can be super effective. Otherwise, downstream here on Lake Monona, the gills are still being found suspended out over deep water. A few fish are starting to move into weed lines, but basically anywhere deeper than 20 feet of water, you're going to find those fish down about 15 feet. So if you can find weed lines, that's a good place to start. But really, drifting anywhere, you're going to bump into some nice schools of gills out there still. But those fish will start to move in shallow as well. Good gill numbers coming out of the Monona Terrace over here. Actually, the bite down there sounds like it's been really great with some nicer fish showing up and a good crappie bite there in the evenings. Monona Bay is producing crappie, bluegill, bass, and pike. And those fish will start, as water cools down, those fish will start to move in there, especially the panfish, as they get ready for winter. They kind of overwinter there. Lake Wingra, a bunch of tiny bluegills, some good bass fishing down there, and some decent muskie. But the star of the chain is Lake Monona as far as muskie size goes. And Noah Humfeld was in here just this morning and said he's been seeing more fish getting caught and putting clients on fish too. So downstream on Upper Mud, You've got a lot of weeds down there still, but they're starting to come back a little bit. But topwater frog's still your best bet for largemouth bass down there, and they are getting some good numbers on Lake Wabisa. Also, good largemouth bite, been shallow largemouth bite going on down there all summer long. Same thing with the gills. You might find a few on weed lines, but most of your fish are going to be out suspended 15 feet down. Haven't heard much for muskie down there, but I'm sure they're getting a few. And the perch action down there has also been pretty slow. They are picking up a few walleyes here between Babcock Park and Bible Camp, and that action down there is going to pick up as things cool down here too. Down to Kegonsa, haven't heard a lot out of Kegonsa. Still some gills being picked up, same as the other two lakes. Little 15 feet of water. Suspended over deep water, weed lines is a pretty safe bet, but honestly, I haven't heard that much of reports out of Lake Wabisa, Kegonsa. Lake Kashkanan sounds like they're getting some good white bass and walleye near the mouth of the Rock River where it comes in here. The water still sounds a little green down there, but fishing seems all right. The walleyes haven't been the biggest fish in the world, but they are getting some decent numbers. Indian Ford Dam up to the Jefferson Dam. Some good action at both those dams for catfish and the nice usual mixed bag of fish, and stuff up and down the river too to be caught. Beaver Dam, haven't heard much specifically out of there, but they've had a great eater catfish bite going on. Crystal Lake, great yellow bass bite still going on out there. Some crappies in the evening. The Wisconsin River, super low right now. I drove by this last weekend, and geez, I was kind of joking about it looking more like there being more sand than water before, but I mean, I think there might be more sand than water out there for real right now. So anyway, if you're running a boat out there, even a small boat, I would be careful. You never know what you're going to hit out there, and there's lots of rocks and stuff to run into, but the fishing is great. The shallower water concentrates smallmouth where there's deeper water, so they're easier to find. Very pleasant wading in a lot of spots, but do be careful if you're out there. You never know what the river's going to do. But all up and down the river, near shorelines, tossing a topwater frog in there. You got smallmouth looking for them. Smallmouth are also chasing around big schools of shad in the lake, in the river right now. So if you see them busting those fish on the surface, toss in there any kind of minnow imitation, and you're likely going to hook up with some fish and can make some really exciting fishing. Dams up and down the river, Prairie du Sac, Dells, Castle Rock, Petenwell, all got a nice mixed bag of fish with some flathead catfish coming out. There's a decent panfish bite I hear about up on Lake Wisconsin near Wood. Like I mentioned last week around Bearfield, and I've heard a couple other people have said the walleye bite seems to be picking up on Lake Wisconsin a little bit, so that's good to see or hear, I guess. Castle Rock, haven't heard much out of Castle Rock specifically, but Petenwell sounds like they're still got a good walleye bite going on over here with some good panfish action shallow near Wood. The Mississippi River sounds like some fantastic panfish action over there. Both I've read online and some folks that come in the shop and are headed over there. Weed lines for perch, bluegill, and crappie have been really great, but also wing dams have been good for walleye and smallmouth bass. The smallmouth are loving topwater poppers over there. I talked about Milwaukee a little bit earlier, but like I said, the salmon are going to be moving up the river anytime now. I think we just need a little cooler weather. I haven't heard much from shore anglers, but like the harbor here in Milwaukee, for instance, there are fish in the harbor. Doesn't sound like the shore guys are getting them just quite yet. It sounds like the water's just a little warm up there, but need a little cooler water, and some rain will definitely push some fish up the river here. So, and then it'll be game on. That's always a real exciting time of year to be out fishing. I guess that other than that, we have trout fishing is going on, hopper season. We'll do Happy Fly Day here, and I don't want to make it seem like I've been holding out on folks, but this is my favorite hopper pattern we sell here at the shop. So this is just called a tan hopper, or foam hopper. I can't remember. It's not a creative name, but it really is an effective fly. I do like to trim this wing off here a little bit. When I fish them, this wing seems like it gets a little draggy, so if you got to put the fly out there a little ways, sometimes it can slow you down. But it's just very simple foam with a nice hot spot there. The legs have great action in the water, and it is full-on hopper season, folks. If you're looking for good trout action, I would get out there as soon as you can. Enjoy this nice weather, and the fish are looking up. And if you can find typically smaller water is better than the bigger water, but it's definitely a great time to be fishing a hopper. That being said, ants, beetles, crickets are also on the trout's menu right now. So terrestrials in general are a great time out there. So if the fish aren't looking up for whatever reason, woolly buggers and nymphs can be effective. And of course, on the spinning gear side of things, as always, panther martins, tube jigs, and rapalas are fantastic. And if you're fishing live bait, red worm under a bobber, super effective way to catch trout. So. Well, I guess that's it for the report. We made it through it, and I want to thank you for tuning in. Post your comments and catches below. And if you have any questions, feel free to call the shop here at 241-4225, and we can try to expand on any of the stuff I've talked about. But yeah, good luck out there, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care.